So President Trump is set to speak directly to the nation tonight for the first State of the Union address of his second term. He's expected to focus on the economy and reassure voters that his policies are bringing down costs and putting more money in their pockets. But most of all, the president wants to make the case that the country is better off under his leadership.
So we have a country that's now doing well. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We have the most activity we've ever had. I'm making a speech tomorrow night, and you'll be hearing me say that. I mean, it's going to be a long speech because we have so much to talk about.
And the U.S. men's hockey team is attending. They are fresh off their gold medal win over Canada. Check out this picture of them boarding Vice President J.D. Vance's plane. That's Air Force 2, headed to D.C. as we speak. So there's a lot going on. We all pontificated in the first hour, Anthony, about what we thought the president would do in his State of the Union address, and we relived some of the old ones as well. Your thoughts on how he can get through to the American people while some things are better, some things are not, still need some work? How do you think that he addresses, without gaslighting like Biden-Harris did, addresses the American people's concerns?
Well, I think there's two things that he's going to do. The first is he's already winning, because look at what the USA men's hockey team just did, right? Is all of a sudden it is cool to be an American again. It is cool to be patriotic. It is cool to actually want to represent your country. And so I think that that alone is winning. Now, the problem is that doesn't pay the bills. That doesn't actually address the things that people care about on a day-to-day basis. And so the hard part right now is that two things can be true at the same time, is that the economic data can be getting better, yet people still feel like everything is expensive. And that's what we see. Is we see the economic data. There are prices coming down. There are homes that are becoming cheaper. But the problem is that everyone says, but if I go back and I just think about 5 years ago to today, everything is so much more expensive.
Different. Yeah.
Correct. And so I think that actually in this unique situation, you can't just focus on data. You have to focus on what people are feeling, what their thoughts are, right? How they actually emotionally are looking at this. And I actually think a big part of it is saying what you're going to keep doing. It's not just pointing out what already has happened in the first year.
Sure.
You still have 3 years left. And so if you can go and say, hey, I am going to commit to doing A, B, C, D things, then now all of a sudden people say, okay, I have hope. I see some light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that's going to be a big part of it, and hopefully he can convey that.
I'm wondering, Brian, if he will have sort of echoes of Reagan sentiment. You know, we had Larry on the other day, and I was asking about how long it took for all the Reagan policies to kick in. He was handed a similar inflation problem as the president was. And I wonder if, you know, sort of highlighting, but maybe not harping too much on the fact that he was handed a pretty impossible situation. The mess that was created economically over the course of the last 4 years, I'm not even sure Superman could fix that in a year's amount of time. So I'm wondering sort of what that tone will be, and does he focus on that message, or do people not want to hear it? Well, everybody was handed a bag of you-know-what when they came into office.
There's kind of a statute of limitations, I think, on how long you can do that. And it does seem like you're probably at the end of that when you're at your first State of the Union, you know, not the joint address, first State of the Union. So again, not going to listen to me. Charlie made that abundantly clear. But I don't think you want to spend a lot of time on Biden anymore. Okay. Everybody knows that. Like, we get that. You mentioned Reagan. The one thing that Reagan was good at, even in tough times, he was very bullish on America, and he was very optimistic. And he let you know the formula that works, right? So maybe we haven't gotten all the results we want yet, but we know the formula that works, and that's the formula we're pursuing. So I hope that he does that. And I do hope, you know, he mentioned in those remarks that we played, America's better off. I actually think, and I know I'm going against everything because we talk econ here all the time, I think the better message for him is the holistic message about being better off holistically. You look at our border, within our own boundaries, we're more secure today. Overseas, we're more secure. Our economy's more secure. But all of these things work together. And I kind of hope he goes there instead of trying to, like, now we're going to do economy for 45 minutes. I don't think anybody wants to hear about the economy for 45 minutes. I just think they want to know that his priority, to what Anthony said, is I want to make things even better than they are right now.
I think, Jerry, the last tally that I saw was something like 50 Democrats are not attending the State of the Union tonight. I realize that there's some, you know, sort of antics that they play to make a statement in doing that. But at the same time, we're still one country, and we've got a lot of problems that we have to overcome, and somehow we have to do that together. Do you think not showing up is the answer to trying to find a bipartisan way to do things?
Disrespect is what it communicates, for sure. But think of it this way, Brian, you especially.
Okay.
All of the, yelling, screaming that might happen otherwise won't happen likely because there'll be fewer Democrats there.
Oh,
so maybe it makes the speech shorter. I don't know.
Right.
One thing I did want to say quickly is that, so the problem, you're right that Biden needs to cycle out of the conversation now. And the problem that the president faces is that the good news, particularly on the economy, gets way underreported. And I mentioned this in the first hour. 71 of the prices tracked in CPI actually went down. Did you hear that from the mainstream media? No, the mainstream media is harping on high inflation, going higher. So I think the president does have to set the record straight in this speech.
Okay.
Taylor, when it comes to the growth numbers that we were talking about, yeah, we're hitting some bumps, and there are some questions about what's going to come, but we still are, to use his words, better off than we were before. And I think that people do understand that to a certain degree. They get it, but is it enough to go vote Republican in the midterms?
I was so surprised that I guess I forgot that the fourth quarter GDP was 1.4 because it felt better than that. And I was looking
that included the shutdown.
Okay,
right?
because the Atlanta Fed GDP right now is still 3.1. Now we can talk about how that was 5.7 and 5.4 and 4.2 and now 3.1, and that doesn't sound good when it's just collapsing. But again, it's up over 2%, which is good. And so I think that's why in the last hour that number surprised me. We got some interesting data points. I know we're doing a housing block, so I won't front run that segment too much. But one thing that we've talked about is supply and how this administration has tried to make fronts on the housing front and tackling maybe supply and not demand. A note I read this morning said new supply in homes is where we're seeing the biggest price declines. Tampa, Miami, Phoenix, Denver, Dallas. The biggest price gains that we saw within the home numbers this morning are in supply-constrained areas. New York, Chicago, Cleveland, Minneapolis. Those are like really good data points that, I hate to say it, that's also red versus blue, so that could work in his favor of talking about these local regulations that you could get out of the way. Also, another final point, Jackie, is we got the consumer confidence number this morning. Now, we're coming off of a very low number, but it was better than expectations, up to a 91 versus an estimate of 87. Here's the good news. All the month-over-month gain, not in the present situation, but in the expectations component. So there still is hope out there that people may not feel good right now, but consumer confidence is up because their expectations are that the economy will improve in the future. How much of that, if that needs to come to fruition by November, is also something that we can talk about. But my worry continues to be just sort of macro level, this sort of low hire, low fire mode. I know we'll talk about that big AI memo later on this hour as well. But if you think about companies that are more productive, boosting the bottom line, stock market goes up, but they're not hiring, then what does that mean for the way people feel about their job prospects? That's sort of maybe a tail risk out there.
Economy, job prospects, these are all part of our feelings. But Anthony, also part of our feelings is sort of our sense of patriotism. We're coming off the Olympics and this historic win for the men's hockey team. Your thoughts about who President Trump includes in that audience, that sentiment. I know that Nick Shirley's going to be there. Jimmy Lai's daughter is going to be there. There's a lot of different stories he's going to weave through this.
One of the best things that the President of the United States can always do is to identify what is the crisis and rally everyone around to go and attack that. And I think that the reason why President Trump is in the White House today is because he basically was able to rally a large portion of the population and say, the people who were in charge did a horrible job. We need to go and correct this issue. They were coming after me through lawfare, et cetera. We need to go and correct this issue, et cetera. And so he was able to put himself in the White House. Right now, if you look at what is the crisis that he is focused on, there is no clear crisis, except for I believe that there is a massive crisis that's actually brewing on the horizon. And if he's intelligent here, I think what he should do is he should basically call attention for the first time, way before the media acknowledges it, that deflation and the contraction of global liquidity is on the horizon. That's why I see GDP going down. That's why I see asset prices going down, et cetera. And so this is a call to arms for all of the entrepreneurs in the private sector.
Well, asset prices are like, woo. I mean, we're going to talk about silver and gold, I think. I mean, crypto's been down, which I know we want to talk about with you.
Crypto's down, stocks are down, precious metals are starting to cool off, et cetera. And it's because deflation is a much, much bigger risk than inflation. And what it ultimately is going to do is that's where you're going to see GDP actually having a headwind. And so, again, this is something that no one's talking about yet, but if the President of the United States says deflation and liquidity globally is contracting, this is a massive issue. We need all Americans to come together and to address this problem and actually push productivity higher. I think that that can be the crisis that he can really rally people and kind of come out with an optimistic tone.
All right, on sentiment, I think we have some sound I want to play, and then we'll react.
Everything is so political. We're athletes. We're so proud to represent the U.S. And when you get the chance to go to the White House, meet the president, you know, we're proud to be Americans, and, you know, that's so patriotic. So no matter what your views are, we're super excited to go to the White House tomorrow and just be a part of that.
I love that. No matter what your views are, he's the president of the United States. We're excited about America. We're excited to be Americans. These are tones that we have not heard in feels like a really long time, because the last 4 years before President Trump felt very, very, very divisive. Thoughts?
Well, just a ton of joy and gratitude out of that. Every time he's on camera, it's joy and gratitude. It's not like I'm entitled to something, I got a grievance. I'm just really glad to be here. And man, I get to go to the State of the Union. That's cool. You know, I think we need more of that in America.
All right.